Welcome to the Baseball Insiders. I am Adam Weinrib, joined as always by Fansided's MLB insider Robert Murray. Thank you for joining us today, Wednesday, April 9th, 1 o'clock p.m., and we got a lot to handle. An Astros-Braves trade last night, broken by Robert, clearing some serious salary, even just on a one-year basis. Kenley makes history, serious injuries, taking aim at several interesting teams, and how those teams will deal with them. We will talk about all that and more, plus open up the notebook and obviously talk about these San Francisco Giants City Connect jerseys, which are on everybody's lips the last 24 hours. Not sure what's going on in parts of them. Love parts of them, but confused about the rest of them. Thank you for joining us again. And we could not do this show without Fansided's MLB insider Robert Murray, who is here. Robert, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing great. It's been a bit of a slow morning over here on my end. I think everybody who is over at my place right now is just kind of dragging some anchors this morning, but we're here to deliver some content because that is what we do. We got a lot to talk about, lots happening in baseball. I actually went to a ball game yesterday as a fan, which that was kind of a new one for me. Haven't done that in quite a while, but good to be here with you, Adam. How we doing? Happy Wednesday.
We doing good. Happy Wednesday. Where'd you go? You went to Arizona?
I went to Chase Field, and I ended up sat in the first base line, and I was going to bring Cooper to the game, but they had no more tickets available for Bark in the Park night. So that was kind of a kick to the teeth, but we made do of it. We had a couple margaritas. That was one of my first times ever drinking at a game, which that was also kind of a new one. I just had a little Cooper appearance in the background there. So I think considering my setup today, there might be plenty of those going on. So this could be a Cooper podcast.
Which is fine, and no one's mad about that. I went to Citi Field on Monday. It was nasty, cold, rainy, wet, and it was also Bark in the Park. But we had tickets in a non-dog section. We missed the dog parade. We were there too late, but we did see several good dogs in the stands. And if you brought your dog to Citi Field on Monday, shout out to you. And shout out to your dog for braving the wet weather as well. Kudos. Good that you're in Arizona as well, because we are going to talk about Corbin Burnes, who opened up a bit on his negotiation process this week and maybe gave Orioles fans reason to be optimistic about the team's direction, even though they didn't ultimately land him. We'll cover all that. If you're just joining us for the first time, this podcast is on every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday here on the Baseball Insiders YouTube channel, as well as in your favorite podcast feed after the show airs. So please subscribe to us, the audio version, rate, review us, and become a member. You can join us in the Discord after you file your membership, either at the All-Star tier or the Rumor Mill tier. There's a private Q&A in the Rumor Mill channel with Robert Murray, 3 o'clock Eastern on Thursdays. So get in there in time for that. That is tomorrow. You should also subscribe to the Moonshot. That is our weekly baseball email newsletter, where the Fansided MLB team, including Robert Murray, break down all the biggest stories in the big leagues with humor, insight, and behind-the-scenes info. You can also read that on the Baseball Insiders feed on fansided.com. That's fansided.com/baseball-insiders, where you get the latest rumors and notes from Robert, humor and insight from yours truly, and the best of baseball and pop culture from the Fansided MLB staff writers. So check that out. Okay, let us start with the news you broke, because it involves the Astros and the Braves, a team in Houston that probably wishes Jim Crane hadn't put his imprint on it in a GM role for a couple of months back in 2022, 2023. And a team in Atlanta that is desperate for pitching, so desperate that they looked at the final year of Rafael Montero's deal and said, yeah, whatever, that. We'll do that. Montero DFA'd last year, obviously cleared waivers because who wanted that contract? Makes the Astros opening day roster this year, but now Houston and the Braves finally got to a point where they thought, okay, palatable enough, cost-wise, just 1 year commitment. We'll ship him to Atlanta, a team that desperately needs help in the back end. How did this come together, and what are your thoughts on potential ripple effects?
Yeah, I'll start with the process of Rafael Montero even going to the Astros in the first place. I believe, if my memory is correct, that is immediately after they ended up firing James Click as their general manager, and we end up you end up having an organization that's making free agent moves with a makeshift front office and the owner kind of really driving the bus. And that was just a recipe for disaster in general. And that was a tremendous job by Rafael Montero's agents, taking advantage of an opportunity there. And they drastically overpaid him for previous performance and not future performance. And that signing really never really felt like it was going to end up being something that was going to pan out. Ultimately, it did not. It was a disaster overall. And as far as this trade getting done, if you look at the Braves' history of making trades, like they make a lot of trades with the Angels, and they make I mean, they make this trade here with the Astros, and what do both of them have in common? They have people that worked with Alex Anthopoulos either in Toronto or in Atlanta. So the familiarity there ended up panning out big time for both sides. The Astros are eating the majority of the deal here, so the Braves are not taking that much on. This was just a pure salary dump, or just a pure like change of scenery kind of move for Atlanta, hoping that they can end up getting the best out of him. But also for the Astros just moving on from a guy like that, and just admitting that it was not working out. And now he's going to end up going to another contending team. So we'll see if it ultimately works out. But this was a move that was a long time coming, if we're being honest.
We are being honest. Why wouldn't we be honest on this podcast? And in Honesty Hour, I hear you call the Braves another contending team.
Yeah,
not pushing the panic button yet.
I know that's controversial because they're what, 2-8 at this point? Is that right?
They got a win yesterday. They picked up one over the Phillies, so we may be at 2-8.
Yeah, because they're like, I mean, if you look, man, like that's a disaster overall. I mean, that pitching matchup, there was a lot more scoring, and I mean, the defense, like the miscues there, were not great. But yeah, I did not expect that high score of a game yesterday when you have Chris Sale and Zach Wheeler on the mound.
Yeah, and you've got Braves fans as if they weren't concerned enough about the 1-8 now 2-8 start, looking at Chris Sale's velocity chart. So hopefully better things around the corner for the Atlanta Braves. This deal will not quell any of those nerves, but they do get an additional option. Jim Crane's weirdest contract of a very weird contract blitz is now cleared. A number of injuries to talk about. I feel like we do have to touch on them. Almost too many to cover on an individual basis. So to clear the throat here, we got 3+ months for Victor Robles after that nasty catch and the crash into the wall in San Francisco. 12-week no throw for Ronaldo Lopez and those Braves. They hope to have him back by the end of the season. But when it's April and the hope is that you'll get someone back by the end of the season, that indicates the hope is probably low. And even it's a low bar to clear, right, in terms of hope. Spencer Arrighetti, broken thumb, upends that already upended Astros rotation, a freak accident. And the Red Sox, who have an offense that should be the envy of pretty much every team at this point, do have a weak spot, so to say, at catcher. They trade Kyle Teal. They're rolling with Connor Wong and Carlos Narvaez this year, and Wong breaks a finger on a catcher's interference. So now that's Carlos Narvaez and I guess Blake Sable in the short term. I went through the Mariners, Braves, Astros, and Red Sox again. Which of those injuries concerns you the most, in any potential, bounce back and internal, external opportunities that might arise from any of these long-term absences, especially in Atlanta and Seattle?
This is a really tough spot. And if you look at it, I would say the Braves and Ronaldo Lopez is the toughest one by far. Obviously, like, all those injuries are not great, but the Braves' rotation, their pitching in general was really thin to begin with. And now he's going to be shut down for at least 12 weeks. He probably could be out longer than that. That is a really tough blow for that franchise overall. And they thought they were getting Jeff Hoffman this offseason. And obviously, like, they didn't pass his physical. They tried bringing him back at a lower value. But ultimately, like, they didn't really address the rotation at all this offseason. And it was an issue going into the season. Now with Lopez missing significant time like that, that to me places it numero uno on that list. And that Robles injury in San Francisco in the outfield, like, you could tell immediately that was serious. Like, he is one of the best defensive guys in baseball. He's very good defensively. Offense, he hasn't really, I mean, in previous years, he never really lived up to that hype that he had when he was with the Nationals. But there is a reason why the Mariners extended him last year. Like, they view him as a pretty important piece there. So I put that one up there as well. The one that I'm surprised we didn't list off here, and I'm going to add it to the list, is the Padres. Because they obviously, Jackson Merrill went on the injured list. Jake Cronenworth is hurt. And then what's the other one? Fernando Tatis Jr. He re-aggravated that shoulder.
Yeah.
So that is not necessarily ideal if you're the Padres. I mean, they've obviously had a very strong start to the season, but losing any of those guys for any amount of time is not great. Tatis Jr. seemed to be optimistic it's not going to be like a long-term absence by any means, or just he's not worried he's going to have to go on the injured list. But re-aggravating that shoulder that nagged him last year, this early in the season, that concerns me a little bit.
Concerns me a lot as well. And thanks for flagging down the Padres. I know we have Padres fans in our comments who would have given us a little bit of a talking to if we had not covered the Padres. Season not over, as
Do
I am.
we? Oh my! I didn't know we had Padres fans in the chat. Looking at you, Drew.
This is the first time. Yeah, they don't usually show up, and they're usually, when they're here, they're very quiet. But today they do happen to be here. So good shout by you as well, covering the Pods. As of now, though, you are not necessarily concerned about a long-term absence for any of those folks, or does one concern you more than the rest?
Yeah, I'm not concerned about a long-term absence. I think Merrill is more precautionary than anything. They just don't want to. They don't want to rush it and end up making his injury anything worse than it already is. And I don't get the sense that it's anything like too serious at this point. But yeah, like the Tatis one, I mean, they seem to be not concerned, but just anytime you're like re-aggravating a previous injury, that's scary. And plus, I mean, when he's healthy, we're talking an MVP kind of candidate there. So that any kind of injury, any kind of bump and bruise for Tatis Jr. or any player of that caliber, yeah, that's going to concern me.
Yeah, I'm concerned as well. And again, a good flag. Our commenters are concerned. Naturally, I would be. And I root for a team with Carlos Carrasco in the rotation. So, it doesn't take much to concern me. But we will keep everybody updated if we hear anything there as well. Want to talk Corbin Burnes because he did talk this weekend, and it's sort of one thing where I'm not sure how the fan base themselves would feel, but I know how I feel as an objective outsider. Burnes, I don't think any of us saw the Arizona Diamondbacks coming as a marriage until it happened. And Burnes said it came together in 72 hours. And obviously there is a home field advantage there a little bit. Wanted to be close to his family in an area where he felt comfortable raising that family. And so Arizona becomes very appealing for him specifically. And they obviously put together a monetary package that works. But Burnes, we didn't know about that secret sauce at first. We didn't know how much the Orioles were involved. We didn't know what his market looked like. We were looking at the Angels and the Red Sox and the Blue Jays before the Diamondbacks stepped in. Burnes opened up and revealed he was talking seriously with the Orioles, and he said they had an offer on the table but couldn't match up on the money. As it turns out, that offer was for 4 years and $180 million, reportedly. Now, that is a shorter-term offer, and yes, the total money isn't there, but that's competitive, and the AAV is wild. So should that competitive offer make Orioles fans more or less optimistic about the way that their front office is planning to spend moving forward? Because like we've noted on previous shows, they've got Adley waiting, they've got a Scott Boras client and Gunnar waiting. Maybe tough to get something ahead of time there, but yeah, I don't know. Does creative short-term inspire you or frustrate you if you're an Orioles fan?
I would be encouraged, but I would also it's a mix of both, if I'm being honest. Because I'm being honest because this is a podcast. We're talking ball.
Gotta be honest. I mean, again, if anybody ever checks us on our honesty, just know that this podcast is built on a foundation of honesty.
No, 100%. And yeah, it's good on them for being willing to end up offering that kind of a contract. But if you look at it, they didn't really end up doing anything else that great in free agency. It was a lot of question marks. I didn't mind the Charlie Morton edition. I know it hasn't necessarily gotten off to the best start there in Baltimore. But they are in a position, especially with so many young players in the roster, they can end up going out and spending significant dough in free agency. And they did not do that. And again, we don't know whether or not like what the structure was on Burnes, how much money was deferred, like what the present day value of it looks like. But the fact that they're actually willing to reportedly at least offer that kind of a contract is encouraging. But when it comes to Burnes, it became pretty obvious throughout his free agency that being in Arizona and having an Arizona spring training at least was very important to him. And when the Diamondbacks ended up emerging as a real option, Burnes and Scott Boras really prioritized getting a deal done with them. And Boras was dealing with the front office, with Ken Kendrick, with all those guys. I mean, when a deal of that magnitude is getting done, the owner's going to be involved. That's just part of the process here. And they became the instant favorite once those negotiations started, and it happened very quickly, as Burnes said. There was a lot of talk, though, about the Giants being like strongly involved here, and like they were interested for sure, but I never got the sense throughout that process that they were going to end up being the favorite. I don't know if they had the money necessarily to get that magnitude of a deal done, but also I still don't know if they would end up getting a deal done just with the fact that the Diamondbacks were involved. Like once they were involved, they really became the focus for all parties that are involved.
Yeah, that much is very obvious. And again,
Yeah.
for the Orioles fans who were holding out that hope, but then went relatively silent, at least this provides a beacon of like a look into what they were dealing with. So yeah, the more athletes are going to be open about this, the better. Corbin Burnes, we know from his arbitration saga, not afraid to be open about this kind of thing. So transparency, good.
Yeah, I love the transparency. Like Burnes he's very vocal about stuff, and like I've known Burnes since he debuted in the majors, and like he's mild mannered, he's chill, but he is very like if he doesn't like something, which look at the arbitration process, he is absolutely willing to vocalize it, and he even admitted once he went to an arbitration hearing against the Brewers and lost. That relationship was damaged. Like there was really no going back at that point. So that was just a really unfortunate situation as a whole. I don't know if the Brewers could ever kept Burnes and then extended him because just a contract of that magnitude for them is just at this point not really possible. But yeah, I give Burnes credit because being in Arizona and being around his wife and being around his kids, that was really obvious. Even in Milwaukee, like that was such a priority for him. Like he's such a family man. And since his family's out here, the fact he got to be in Arizona, that's about as good as it gets for a player like that.
Yeah, and was the preeminent factor. So if you're wondering why the deal came together so quickly, it was definitely waiting for a team like the Arizona Diamondbacks to step in, and they did. Got some super chats to get to and a couple more topics. But Uncle Ted, I want to say, in response to Yoendris Gomez being a starter in the minors, while true, he made 21 starts last year and totaled 83 and a third innings. So that is under 4 innings a start. So I would say, yeah, again, like I said, stamina not there. The stuff is, but maybe there's a starter bulk guy opportunity, but I would not trust him to be a 6-inning starter at this point in time. The game is changing. Maybe that's not what we do anymore, but again, a starter in the minors, but also not quite. I'm fine with him in his current relief role. There was a super chat asking us to memorialize and do a moment of silence for Octavio Dotel, and we should. If you haven't read the Tyler Kepner story about Dotel's legacy, I recommend that immediately. As soon as you hop off this podcast, go ahead and read that. Basically, the crux being that some players move around a lot because it's a Steve Phillips quote that it's built on. Some players move around a lot because they're not well liked, or teams can't unlock them or get a hold of them. Dotel the exact opposite. Moved around. Nobody ever wanted to trade him. There were just people throughout the league in every city that would vouch for him. The player and the person that he was, and he did it forever, and he did it. It's some of his finest, crowning moments and most memorable moments in his major league career were at the end of it. Keying the Cardinals 2011 World Series run. Grabbing the rally squirrel and making that a part of the post World Series celebration. He was eating important innings for the 2012 Detroit Tigers in the postseason, before ultimately he retired. So tremendously sad news there. Tremendously sad news for the family of Nelson Cruz as well, and Tony Blanco as well. We lost a lot of Major League Baseball talent. That horrible accident in the Dominican Republic. And Dotel is obviously the name that most know and is deserves to be celebrated for his star turns. Again, 2 1/3. He did not allow a hit in the 2012 postseason, by the way. An inning in the ALDS, 2 1/3 against the Yankees in the CS, and another inning and 2/3 shutout in an unfortunate sweep against the San Francisco Giants in the World Series. But Octavio Dotel, great man, great pitcher. And so thank you for the super chat because we didn't want to not do that today.
No, for sure. And yeah, I appreciate you doing that, Robert G. And a great name, by the way. But it was cool hearing from so many different people yesterday about Dotel. And there was one guy in particular, he and I were texting, and he was starting his career, and one of the first people he ever worked with was Dotel. And he echoed what I think everyone around baseball has said since the news came out that he ended up passing away in that accident. It's just that he lit up a room, and he was a really good dude. One of the more respected guys of that era, of that generation. And that's just an unspeakable, unimaginable tragedy. So that my thoughts are out to them, to Nelson Cruz and his family for the loss of his sister in that accident as well, and just all the other families that were impacted. And it sounds like that was a really popular spot in the Dominican Republic, and the fact that happened is just Yeah, that's brutal. I don't even have the words for that one. So I just want to send some good thoughts to them. And yeah, good words by you, Adam, as well.
And again, thank you for the super chat because we did want to make sure that we touched on that. Couple of things as well that we got to hit. Kenley Jansen, who I just wanted to mention last night, came through with a very clutch save for the Angels, and the Angels are 7-3, and we know we have Angels fans who watch this show. And we haven't touched on the Angels near enough because it's easy to trip into this territory of thinking, all right, that franchise is where it is. They're also Rans. Like, not non-contenders, not important. So we'll touch on them when you ask, but we won't go out of our way to touch on them. And if Kenley getting his 450th save and entering vaunted territory, potential Hall of Fame territory, is what it takes to get us to talk about the Angels, then I love it. Because I think we got to show love to Kenley Jansen on a career that who knows when it ends, but for now, he's reaching rarefied air. And the Angels and sort of a resurgent Mike Trout over in 3 consecutive games, getting the OPS up. And Kyron Paris, who I have Angels fan friends who usually only text me to say Artie sucks or I'm canceling my season tickets, who are now texting me, what's the deal? Wait, why are they 7-3? Who's Kyron Paris? What's up? So yeah, giving love to Kenley Jansen, that Angels roster, for some early battling.
Yeah, it's cool looking at the Angels now because in previous years it felt like they had zero direction whatsoever. And it seems like that team actually has direction now. Like you could see the steps forward that they were taking last year. I know it was a tough season overall last year, but like there was actually some hope there. And they're obviously very aggressive in promoting their prospects. They're aggressive in the draft. They're aggressive in trying to like find different areas to upgrade the roster. Like some of it I didn't necessarily agree with. I still didn't agree with the Kikuchi signing when they ended up doing it this offseason. But there was at least a plan, and they wanted to improve their pitching staff. They wanted to just also just infuse that roster with young talent. And Logan O'Hoppe being the face of that franchise is obviously, in addition to Mike Trout, but like he's like they're going to be their long-term building block there in Anaheim. I'm a fan of what they're doing. I don't know if they're necessarily going to be able to keep this up because I mean their roster is still it's not perfect by any means, but it's nice to see that team start off hot because I mean the Angels fans just have not had any hope there whatsoever, and obviously not having Anthony Rendon there, I mean who knows how much that's actually helping them, But yeah, overall, that's been a nice start for the Angels, and I'm hopeful that they'll keep it up. But I'm also skeptical at the same time.
I am skeptical as well, but embrace the good times while you have them. And as you're uncovering pieces like Paris, like hey, who knows? It's still an incomplete roster, but you're maybe pulling stars out of the rough and polishing off some diamonds you weren't expecting. So shout out to the Angels and shout out to our Angels fans. Join us in the Discord. You can always ask us additional Angels questions. We'll be more than happy to address that. One final thing, the San Francisco Giants, a team that I know has been near and dear to you at various points in your life, became the latest team to release their second City Connect jerseys. They have been trending significantly for the last 24 hours. They leaked early, so we got to look at what we thought was the front of the jersey a couple of weeks ago, and the immediate reaction was, what the hell is going on here? Is that like gradient or those seismographs? And the answer was yes. Apparently they were. We weren't seeing things. A lot of teams have not quite taken chances with their second City Connects, and we've got some leaks that are unconfirmed still, so I'm going to give some teams some grace. I love the Red Sox Green Monster leak. If that's what we know, the Red Sox jerseys are green, and the leak looks consistent with what we should be expecting. So shout out to those. Those are great. The Miami Marlins jerseys that look like Heat jerseys lack creativity. The Chicago White Sox jerseys that look like Bulls jerseys, again, if the Yankees came out and Knicks City Connects, I would say back to the drawing board, like you forgot to innovate. So I'm going to give the Giants credit for taking a chance here. And there's a lot of good secondary logos here. There are a ton of elements to these jerseys. And I didn't like the original Giant City Connects. I thought they were among the worst. So I'm rating these higher than I thought because of the chances taken, because of some of the secondary elements. But they debuted last night, and they are definitely polarizing. And I don't know if you come out in favor of taking chances or holding back a little bit and going with the traditional look.
Yeah, I've been on the fence about this one, and I was just looking at the picture again just to make sure I had it right. And I'm going to deliver my take on this. Those jerseys suck. They remind me of like the jersey you get for a bowling league back in Sheboygan, Wisconsin. And to me, that they're awful. So I don't know what they were thinking necessarily with that. I don't think they were thinking. I'm kind of wondering if they had taken anything as they were kind of constructing those jerseys, but it is overall bad. I think the purple is a tough look. Willie Adames is one of the coolest and swaggiest guys that I've met in baseball. And the fact that I don't even think he can pull it off, I think that speaks volumes for me. So I'm going to give them a strong 2 out of 10. I think they need to go back to the drawing board. Honestly, it like you could use it. No, I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say that. But yeah, it is not good. It is really, really, really bad.
I mean, they definitely spent a lot of time at the drawing board and the coloring board. I rate them higher than you do, but also, you know, I would still give deference to the Giants' traditional look. I love the glove logo. I think, look, a lot of this is definitely built to invoke a, hey, what are they on sort of feeling. That was the purpose. I think that was the stated goal. But I do think the front font, not my favorite. Use of some interesting colors, use of some gigantic text. That's not for me. I applaud the effort and the attempt. Overall, I'm not going to put him in the dirt like you, but give me the leaked Red Sox Green Monster jersey over these, though. I think I'd rather see that.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like these jerseys, there's something that you would use to wipe your butt. That's kind of what I'm saying.
You know what? I heard you trying to say it earlier, and then you're like, no, I don't think I want to say it. And then I talked long enough to give you the chance to be like, no, I actually do want to double down on this. I wipe my butt with these. So
thank you for that. I was trying to find a nicer way to say. I was going to say it in a much meaner way than that. So I think the pause there really kind of benefited me because I don't want to. Yeah, what I was going to originally say might have gotten me canceled. That which that would have not been good. Yeah, but Adam, speak.
No, well, last time I talked, it ended with you saying that you wanted to wipe your butt with the jersey, so I figured maybe you hold back and be silent. Look, we will continue to address the City Connects as they come in, but I feel like these are probably going to be the most polarizing and controversial, and not just because they look like a polarized sunglasses lens. I think they're going to be polarizing they look a little Nickelodeon adjacent. So I will only be ordering one of the hats, not multiple. That's how you know I don't love it. I mean, look, the Phillies. Everybody knows I root for the Phillies in the National League. The fact that they have a City Connect and I just have no interest in it says volumes about the way that the Phillies landed on their City Connect. I've been disappointed in a lot of the recent efforts. I like weird. I like change, right? I'm excited to see whenever a team is announcing a new City Connect, I'm like, great, let's roll. What does it look like? And then what I see has been pretty disappointing time again lately. So another by the San Francisco Giants. All right. Anything else in your notebook not related to potential toilet paper alternatives?
No, that was the only thing in my notebook was toilet paper alternatives. So that's kind of disappointing, but got some calls to make, but yeah, nothing really overly pressing at this point in time. So maybe something changes, maybe something doesn't change, but that's kind of a nice tease. So we'll see. But yeah, no, one thing I do know is that this podcast was very good and that I appreciate you, Adam. Good show today.
I appreciate you as well. I would classify this podcast as very good. And if you agree, we will see you back here at 3:30 Eastern on Friday afternoon, right here on the Baseball Insiders YouTube channel and on all podcast platforms. In the aftermath, love if you'd rate, review us, give us those 5 stars, give us what we desire, give us what you think we earned. We'll keep working for your ratings and reviews. For Robert Murray, I'm Adam Weinrib. We will catch you right back here on Friday afternoon. Subscribe to the Moonshot, join us in the Discord, and read the Baseball Insiders feed on fansided.com. In the meantime, we will be right back in just a couple of days. See you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.